where we talk about how to live in the now. And here's your host, Kim Martin Raymond.
Peace and blessings, and welcome to this edition of the How Now podcast, where we talk about how to live in the now. I am your host, Kim Martin Raymond. I'm a minister, spiritual life coach, health and nutrition awareness coach, author, and founder of Redefining You LLC, where I help my clients to realign themselves, mind, body, and spirit. And if this is your first time listening to the How Now podcast, welcome to season 3 of our show. We're excited that you are here, and if you feel so inclined, please go to the website, www.hownowpodcast.com, and then click on your favorite podcast platform where you can like, follow, and subscribe, or you can scroll to the bottom of the page and it will take you to this week's banner for this week's show. And that will take you to the How Now YouTube channel, where you can go on and like, subscribe, follow, and share. And click that notification bell so you know what's happening in the now. Again, that is www.hownowpodcast.com. Let's get into tonight's show, which is entitled The Ride to Freedom. We're going to be talking about freedom rides, and we're going to be talking about techniques for social transformation through artistic expression. You know, this is Black History Month, but we already know that every day is Black History. 365 days a year. There is no day that is not without a time where we have been touched or we have been influenced by those who are of color. And so to talk about this evening's topic is my handsome guest here to my right, and as is customary with the How Now podcast, I'm going to have my guest to introduce himself at this time.
Well, greetings to you, Sister Kim. It's an honor to join you. I certainly appreciate it. My name is Haki Ami, spelled Hakiammi. I'm the president of the Teaching Artists Institute, and we're based in Baltimore, Maryland. So it's a little cold here, but we here just making things happen, and so we're excited about our work and what we need to do to, continue to move our community forward.
Absolutely. It was great having you here. And thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to talk about these freedom rides. But let's talk about the Institute at first. Like you said, you are the president of the Teaching Artists Institute. So tell us a little bit about what you do there.
Well, certainly. Teaching Artists Institute was founded about 7 years. Actually, Kim Poole was the founder of that organization. And so for the most part, we've been operating in mostly Africa. I say in Gambia, Ghana, and we did several operations in Uganda, tours and educational excursions, shall say, in Tanzania, Kenya. And this year we have some things coming up in Rwanda, Kenya, and Tanzania as well. But so basically, Teaching Artists Institute works with artists and other creatives to create opportunities using their art form, whatever that form may be, to create sustainable communities, educational, self-development, and entrepreneurship. So we've done that over the past few years, and we're excited because now we realize we needed to bring some things home and do some things here, working with youth and students and entrepreneurs as well.
Okay, awesome. That is amazing. It's amazing work that you all are doing, like you said, in your community and abroad, and bringing them, stateside to work with children. So, like I said, prior to the pandemic, because we always are talking about things that were going on prior to the pandemic, you were doing, a lot of your work, like you said, abroad. And so when the pandemic hit, how did things change?
Well, interesting. So I personally came on board. I knew about the work of the Teaching Artists Institute and some of the other members, affiliates that Sister Kim has, established the relationships with. But so I actually came on board in 2020, and right then we were actually doing work in the Tanzania area. I mean, we had a conference scheduled for Tanzania, and COVID came, and we were able to keep that since Tanzania was one of the only countries that remained open. So we were able to keep that and ensure that we still had that conference. But perhaps even so, last year, in terms of people kind of coming back out, or just exploring different operations, we had the opportunity to launch our Freedom Rides here, and that started with a conversation with a sister, because we were pitching, Africa work, and she said, "You know what? I think y'all should do, a Freedom Rides," and that's right down my alley. Then that I was an elected official in the city of Baltimore, and I still sit on the board of the Maryland Legislative Black Caucus Foundation in the state of Maryland. So, those things were right down my alley. So it just made sense for us to optimize on an opportunity. We're still engaged in cultural reclamation with political, educational, legal spin on it. So we have some good conversations with our transformative tour, transformative ride, so I say.
Okay, so talk to me a little bit about what that ride looks like, because is it just strictly for youth, or is it for anyone?
Well, yeah, so we will have several adults. And interestingly, as I was promoting for this year's conference, we may have to even do two this year. So we're excited about that. But so last year we started in Baltimore. We didn't visit anywhere in Baltimore, but we went to DC, MLK, MLK Museum. I'm sorry, MLK statue, and then the African American. I actually got on a shirt, the African American History Museum in DC.
Nice.
And that's just a phenomenal museum. So we went on to Farmville, Virginia, close to Richmond, and then the Greensboro, North Carolina, where the actual what they call the sit-ins took place, where they were called the Greensboro Four. That's the term, where they were arrested for, and they actually have the actual Woolworth still there. So there we went to Greenville, South Carolina. That's where Jesse Jackson is from, and it has some historic significance there. And then to Atlanta, all the MLK spots, the church that they have. And oh man, Selma, Birmingham, Jacksonville, Mississippi, New Orleans. I think it's like two other places: Topeka, Kansas, and wait a minute, what's the other one? Oh man, it's one more. Kansas. It's one more place, but I don't have it in front of me. But so we end up flying back from Topeka, Kansas. I'm missing one other location inside of there, but so we just had like some good experiences. We had like over 31 young people that came from the Maryland area, and so mostly Baltimore city where we're based, and so we're just excited to really put this together on another level. We're partnering with different individuals this time. We have curators. We had an actual former state delegate, Dr. Salima Marriott, that was our curator last year. And so we're going to have some different curators this year, just to have people share their experiences, elders, shall I say, who perhaps have lived during that time, or can share some experiences of their activism here. So that's what we look for to make that happen.
Awesome. So it happens through the Institute, and how do they find out about the actual Freedom Rides? Is it something that was advertised, or do you advertise to the local schools in that Baltimore area when you did your first trip?
Yeah, so one of our primary partners is the YMCA here in the Maryland YMCA, as well as one of our partners is the International Civil Rights Museum, which is in Greensboro, North Carolina. But yeah, we do a lot of events. I mean, this year we really were able to get out in front of this and early to create the partners, create the funding streams. So, we just go to different organizations and, just be present in the community with influencers and institutions. And me being a former, member of the Democratic State Central Committee, I sort of know who to ask and, who wants to do something constructive for our youth in our community. And so we can't talk about, issues that's going on and we're not, invested in the future. So I feel, honestly, for me, if I'd gone on something like this at such an early age, who's to say where I would be? So that's, what I'm excited about.
Awesome. What is the age range for the youth? What is the youngest?
So I'm sorry. So yes, so the age range is from high school students mostly. High school students. We've gotten like high school students, and we had a really real younger one that was like 20. No, she was like 11. She was the youngest, but she has like family. I mean, we know her family, so we thought that was a good way to partner with her. So we're excited about that. Mostly high school students, I'd say. So.
Awesome. I see we have another guest who has joined us. Is that Miss Poole?
Yes, it should be her. It only can be her, right?
Miss Poole, are you there?
Yes, I am. Yeah. Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to be with you guys tonight.
Thank you so much for joining us. For those who are listening in, or those who are tuning in, we have just been joined by Ms. Kim Poole. And Kim, if you can just introduce yourself briefly, and then we'll go ahead and carry on with our conversation.
Kim Poole, founder of Teaching Artists Institute, Soul Fusion Performing Artist, excited to show up and serve the community however needed using my art form.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. Mr. Ami was just talking to us about the Freedom Rides and talking to us about, the places that you were going, and just trying to get a feel for the importance of these Freedom Rides and what they mean to the community and to the children and what the significance is. So your role in this, what has been, we talked about the pandemic. We talked about how there were some pivots that took place, how you were doing some things abroad, and then how you talked about bringing things stateside. What were, some of the thoughts that you had behind, bringing it stateside, doing the Freedom Rides, and what did you hope would be, the things that the children would glean from that experience?
Well, it's important for us to make sure that we're telling our own stories, and taking history off the page is important because we need to make our story relevant to the next generation. History is not just 60 years ago or 100 years ago. It's, today is history because tomorrow is a whole new day. And we need to prepare our young people today to make new history. Building on the legacy that they stand on. And if they're not aware of that, we have to compete with TikTok and video games, and it's our job to do so, to be competitive. We want to incentivize learning our history. We want to reestablish that as the norm. That requires intergenerational conversations, using art as a tool for social transformation. And so hopefully this is what the Freedom Rides is going to do for this year. We do that in other experiences as well. We have the Underground Railroad excursion, where we again take history off the page, a story of a woman right here from Maryland, just like me, Harriet Tubman, right? Seems so far away, such a distant history, but I live just miles from where she first found her emancipation here in Baltimore. She left the Eastern Shore and decided that enough is enough. And she found liberation in my city of Baltimore after leaving the Eastern Shore. And so that should empower every young girl, old and young, young is a state of being, in Maryland, in Baltimore, to know that she first found liberation here. That was her first stop. And then you have Frederick Douglass, the same with him, right from down the street in Eastern Shore, that decided, we quote Frederick every year. What to a Black man is the 4th of July, and power concedes nothing. And so these quotes, they have real relevance and significance, and it should mean most to those that are right here walking down those cobblestone pathways in Fells Point, etc. But the young people, they go to the inner harbor all the time, and they have no knowledge of this history. We still haven't been able to arrange a tour of the Frederick Douglass Isaac Myers Museum right in our own city. We've been trying since 2019. They first said it was the pandemic. The next year they said it was a wedding ceremony taking place. In 2022, they referred us to the Baltimore National Heritage Site. So even the institutions that are charged with promoting and preserving our history are still gatekeepers that send us through red tape and through loops to even use the services that are telling our story. And so the Teaching Artists Institute, the reason this work is so important, because it gives us an opportunity to craft our own story. And we just need to lobby for the resources. That's why we're so grateful for your platform. We hope there are people out there today that'll say, here's my dollar, or let me volunteer for an hour, or let me send my young person because I think this is important, or let me be a part of that storytelling narrative. Let me be a griot so that I can facilitate intergenerational dialogue too. So, yeah.
Yes, I mean, oh, no, that's just not, and look, that's what this platform is all about. It's all about being able to create spaces for us to have these vital conversations. These things are necessary, and I'm grateful that there's an institute like yours that exists that allows us to have platforms that are pushing for this information, pushing for us to understand and know our heritage. And like I said, that's something I was saying to our listening audience earlier, that is 365 days a year. It's not just February. It's not just this month or these out. History is consistently being made. History has stood the test of time. Like you said, it wasn't just 60 years ago. It's been something that's been ongoing, and we have to be able to tap into it. And then we have so many people out here who are creators. We have so many people out here who are, are finding creative ways to express, our experiences. But they have to have foundations as well. I believe that it's important that we lay the foundation so that way we're building upon that. And, we're having our youth to be able to pick up the mantle and take over where we left off. So it's important that we have platforms just like these. So, I think it's important, the Freedom Rides. I think that's wonderful that it's called that. And how did you kind of come up with that concept of Freedom Ride?
So I didn't, not at all. Please don't give me credit. So the Freedom Rides, it was to hold accountable the U.S. government for their federal laws around interstate travel for African Americans. May 4th, 1961, CORE, James Farmer, they started the first Freedom Rides, and that's what they called it. When they left Washington, D.C., and, they were stopped on their way, they didn't make it, they were bombed, and in Anniston, Alabama, they were on their way to New Orleans, Louisiana, but they never made it. And so then you had a second Freedom Ride that left, Nashville, Tennessee, and the HBCU down there, and they got on the road. And so this is nothing new. And many of the struggles that we're dealing with in this country, they're not new. And so that's why we have to keep the intergenerational conversation going, so that listen, a lot of these hurdles that you jump over, some of them, you know, they are going to be unique expressions of the symbolic landscape, but many of them are just going to be refashioned problems that we've already had to face, and we've been doing work in that. So you don't have to start from scratch every generation.
Right.
You know, it's not just about building generational wealth as it relates to capital and finance, but we
Right.
need generational wealth as it relates to our culture. Culture is the new currency. We need to
Absolutely.
make sure that these wisdom, these pearls of wisdom, these golden nuggets, that we're hearing them from the mouths of our elders before they transition, because they won't be here. And
Right.
then we will be relying on textbooks to have
Right.
this story told. We're in a major shift. This time period is just a high vibration, and
Yes.
only those that take advantage of it are going to benefit from this great opportunity that we have.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like you said, we don't want to lose, you know, those things. You said something very important when we're talking about, you know, hearing the stories from our ancestors, those who, you know, may not have long to be here before they transition. And it's so important because so much of our history, so much of our culture is steeped in storytelling and the things that you know, stories and things that were passed on. So many of the tangible things have been lost or have been destroyed. And so there are so many spaces, you know, that have been left, you know, and questions that have been unanswered because of the fact that, you know, there's not anybody to fill in that gap or to be able to tell that story. And like you said, we can't rely on textbooks to be able to give an accurate account. And so,
Yeah.
you
So
know,
many implicit biases.
yeah.
I mean, I just think about today, I was with the Maryland Commission on African American Historic Preservation, and we spoke with someone in the audience, then they're a part of a truth and reconciliation. But we as a community don't know the truth because our stories were muted. So we can't have any reconciliation until we have the truth, until we tell our, we want those stories. Don't press it down. We have been pressing down that history that we've been trying to forget. Everybody is so quick. They want to reconcile. They want it to be over with. They're like, please, can we get over that era in history so that we can move on? But we're building on a bottomless bucket if we don't know the truth. If we don't look in our own family history and ask your grandmother, what happened to you? You know, my grandmother's 90 years old. She was alive when they had separate water fountains. She lived
Right.
through Jim Crow, you know? And I
Right.
think about my grandmother. She was the first woman to own on Belvedere in Baltimore, a Black woman owned nightclub. She knows what they were talking about when they say bootlegging liquor. You know,
Right. Right.
I'm
Right.
not going to say that was the healthiest
Mm.
practice, but
Right.
they understood that there was empowerment in being you know, a Black owned entrepreneur and not having a regulation of, you know, people looking into your business, and how that underground chitlin circuit really got started.
That's
And
right.
being able to get that story from her before she transitioned, you know, I remember stories of the Sunrisa Club. You know, I'm a little off
Right.
topic, but I'm talking about these precious memories.
No, but
And if
that's
we,
important. Yeah.
yes, if we don't have these conversations with our elders, who's going to tell you? If we don't tell our stories,
Right.
who's going to be the truth and reconciliation as we
Right.
hold this country accountable
Right.
for, you know, the next steps like reparations and, you know, all those conversations. And
Right.
they're still doing the exploration bills. We can't even agree on exploration. My God, we have a long way to go.
We
And the
have a
young people
long,
need to know, they need to know that you're up next. This
right.
journey is not over, and we want to give them hands-on practical things to do, best practices, and they need to know what's already been done so that they know what to do next.
Yeah. I mean, and like I said, you touched on something key. My grandmother passed away 2 years ago, January. She was 105.
Wow.
105 years old. And I mean, I have a granddaughter, so 5 generations. She got to meet her great great grandmother, you know?
Wow.
And so, I mean, how often are we going to have instances like that where we have longevity? We are losing our young people. You know, unfortunately, I lost my youngest daughter 14 years ago. So, you know, we the legacies, the time frame, the times that we're living in, we're losing some of our youth. We're losing our own children, some to violence, where you losing some to health issues and things of that nature. So it is so important that we preserve those things that are a part of our history, because we don't know who's going to be here to carry that on,
Wow.
And so, I mean, it is powerful what you say, because how many people can say that they even know their grandparents? Some children are born and they don't even know their grandparents. Their grandparents have been long since deceased. And so it's a different time that we're living in. So it is so important for us to have other means and other resources of being able to know about our history. For those who may not have, ancestors who are here that can tell the story. So I'm loving the fact that there are platforms and that you're doing these freedom rides, and that you have this institute where we can, find other ways, other platforms to be able to pass on this information, to be able to show them the beauty in it. There is some beauty, there is some pain, there are a lot of emotions that come along with this, and we have to learn how to feel those emotions and not have them be based on anger, because we're seeing a lot of that too. A lot of anger comes from some of this. And I think that's why at times you have people who will say, I don't want to talk about it, I want to get past this, because for some, it's too much of an emotional, situation for them. And they
Yeah.
don't know which way to go.
You know what? But honestly, I invite their anger, because anger has its place in the activation of our movements. A lot of people say, "Oh, I can't stand this generation. They so entitlement. So much entitlement." I invite their entitlement. They say, "I deserve this respect. I deserve these resources." And so when I say anger, it doesn't mean that I want you to go out and, as a result of your anger, hurt somebody. But I want you to know, in your emotional state, when there has been a trigger, when there's a barrier, when a border has been crossed, when somebody has done something inappropriate, your emotions are like your moral compass. They help you determine when somebody is in the wrong, because you may, what did they say? You may forget what someone says. Maya Angelou said this, but you'll never forget how they made you feel.
Right.
And you may not be able to articulate why what they said or what they did is an offense, but your emotional system will tell you, I'm angry.
Right.
And so what you do about your anger, that may be what we need to discuss, but it's okay to get angry. It's okay to get downright upset. And it doesn't mean you have to stay there, but that is a part of the process. And I don't want you to feel like you have to skip to the peaceful part. You have to skip, to the I'm okay now. No, I'm upset. I have the right to be upset. And I'm not okay. And it's okay to say, I'm not okay.
Right. And like you said, that's the beauty of it all. The beauty is being able to have platforms where there can be self-expression. And just like you said, if there is anger, it's okay to be angry. And like I said, you have people who want to suppress that. No, I don't want to talk about that. No, we need to have those conversations. We need to understand why, because sometimes if we understand why certain things happened or why things went the way they went, we can begin to process it and say, okay, I may not agree with it, but I understand, or I agree to disagree with this, and here's why. To be able to articulate, why it is that we're feeling the way it is, because why we're feeling the way we are. We always tell our young boys, man up, stop crying, don't do this. And it's so important for us to be able to express ourselves, so that way, just like our body has to be in that state of homeostasis. When it gets hot, we sweat. When we feel pain, we may wince, so we may cry. Those are natural things that happen. We have to make it become more natural for us to experience the things that we have without going to the extreme. And that comes with understanding, that comes with knowing what's going on around us, so that way we can make, conscious decisions about the things that we do. We can make informed and educated decisions about the things that we do and how we react to certain things. And we can't do that if we're not knowledgeable, if we're not seeking that education if we're not, being exposed to the things that are going on around us.
And that's the beauty of the Teaching Artists Institute, because we value artistic expression. And until you have practice experiencing a wide range of emotions, you don't know how to channel them into building institutions for your community, because you don't even know the limit or the height of your power. But your power is your emotional state. That is what allows you to tap into your passion, tap into your ability to create. I hate to say it, but some of my best songwriters are only great when they sad. I think of Mary J. Blige. I
Mhm.
love Sad Mary. Oh my God, some of the things that she's
Right.
written is
Right.
touching my soul. I
Yeah.
said, I want her to be healed though. I'm celebrating her healing because she is
Yeah.
whole. I see her progress. They had the Grammys last night. She said, good morning, gorgeous. I loved every bit of it. But I'm telling you, I saw the range of her soul when
Yeah.
she was broken. And I know that other women could relate to that. And so when you are learning to use your emotional state as a tool for
Yeah.
creation, now you have the power. Now you are determining your behavior. How is my behavior going to affect my habits? And how are my habits going to build institutions for my people?
Yes, yes. And that's what it's all about. It's all about, like you said, that expression. And so in your institution, in your art institute, what are some of the platforms in which they do it? I know that they do through music. What are some other ways in which you are doing expression through social transformation? What are some other
So
means?
So for us in the Teaching Artists Institute, art is everything. It's ideas, it's creative thinking, design thinking. It's the moment that you decide to conceptualize a thought. That inception is art to us, because we understand that art is everything, everywhere, everybody, all the time. You're the artist. The moment that you decide to think thoughts for yourself. And so, yes, traditional arts matter. At the same time, we want to empower everybody in society to tap into that creative energy, into that vibration, so to speak. So for us, what that looks like, it shows up differently across the regions where we work. We work in 8 countries, 6 of which are on the continent of Africa. And really, we believe artists are essential workers. They should be resources to their communities. And so as an artist, as a creator, it's your job to determine, what does my community need? And as a result, use your creative energy to be a resource, find a need and fill it. That's the artpreneurial mindset that we're sharing. So for us here in the DMV, the Baltimore area, during the pandemic, we learned that housing was a major issue. And so we started an artist in residence. And so we have artists that rent the rooms on the top floor of our office space. We also, in the region of the Gambia, we have many visual artists, and we also have farmers. A lot of people don't realize that agriculture, i.e. culture, was the first form of culture, and that's an art form. And so we're, teaching in Ghana rappers to create messaging around why farming is cool, because you have this mass exodus in Ghana of agriculture workers. And it's like, you see your mother, she's in the dirt with a hoe and a shovel, and you say in your mind, no, I'm going to be a professional. I'm going to get a suit and a tie. I'm going to get me an office. I'm going to be a lawyer or a doctor or somebody really legitimate and important, not realizing that agriculture is one of the biggest business developments globally, especially when you're living in fertile ground like in
Right.
Ghana. And so
Right.
using artists like rappers that already have influence to change the mindset, that is a creative activity that we're doing. I think about Trigmatic back to 2017
Mhm.
and Daddy Bosco, and all the Ghanaian rappers and reggae artists, and Vice Obor, just doing incredible work to change the mindset. So that, it just really looks different. But what we know is that wherever we're creating, wherever we're innovating, and whatever design thinking we're engaged in, that it is a tool to transform our society. Social, that's us and everybody. The transformation is the process, not saying that we're going to manage our conflicts and, manage around them, that we're going to problem solve as if our problems are going to go away. But transformation acknowledges that our process is just ebb and flow, like the river. We will always have things to be considered, problems to be solved, but we get better because we're in the flow. And the more we accept the fact that this is just a part of life and development, it's just more natural that way. And so that is the art for social transformation that we speak of.
That is amazing. That is amazing. And I'm just like, I love that it's not just the common things that people, people say, oh, it's an arts institute. Oh, it's just going to be drawing. It's just going to be, dance. It's just going to be, song. It's going to be things like that. I love that you say that it is tapping into what is needed in our society, in our communities, and saying, okay, now we're going to find creative ways in which to build on that. It's about going back into our communities and not just saying, okay, I'm going to soar and go beyond this and be removed from that area that needs us. So
I'll say a lot of the European thinking around art is it is for the experts among us. It is separate for the elite, like a museum up away from the people. But in the African worldview, art is integrated into the community. It's a everybody thing. In South Africa, everybody sings. The choirs, I love South African choral music. In the dancing that I see in Tanzania on the East Coast, even in Baltimore. I mean, I see the kids, they have the circle. I remember dancing the club music. Everybody gets a turn. We have the circle. And, like, even if we're freestyling, the freestyle goes around the circle. It doesn't matter if you're AZ or Nas, everybody gets a chance. So art is everybody. But what I will say is we won't forsake the traditional artists, though, because traditional artists also need to be valued in their offerings around thinking. We need to bring them to decision-making tables because they have no incentive. As creators, they're like a muse or a conduit of creative energy. And so we need to invite them into the space. And though the Teaching Artists Institute is not just about music and it's not just about dance, there is a metaphysical realm that is connected to when you engage in those traditional mediums with experts that I'll say allow themselves to be used in that way. So it's a delicate balance. What can I say? But I understand what you're saying. It's like every time you hear teaching artists, it's like, oh, let the kids put their hands in some paint and put murals on the wall. But it's like, no, I'm also that artist to say, we're not going to paint over pollution. Let's talk about air. Let's talk about water. Let's talk about food. I'm that kind of artist.
Yes. I'm sitting there like, yes! because it's so important for us to be exposed to these kinds of things. It's not something that is common. It's platforms like this. This is the reason why these platforms. This is the reason why How Now exists, because we're wanting to create platforms for people to understand that we all have a part in this. We are all part of this body. We are all part of this system, and it's how we fit into that. Is not a mold. There are a whole lot of moving parts. How do we come together? How do we create or establish areas that can help us to develop and grow as individuals? And we are learning from one another. And if we can't, begin to connect those dots, we're putting ourselves at a disadvantage. There has to be a time where we're coming together. There has to be a time where we're trying to problem solve and to try to see, what is it that's necessary? What is it that's needed? What is it that we have to do differently but things that we can do better. And if we're, if we're sitting on our laurels and not, you know, taking an interest in that, we're putting ourselves, like I said, at a huge disadvantage. So, I mean, I am grateful for the things that you're doing, for the ideas that you're sharing, for the platforms that you're creating, especially for our youth, because they are our future. And we need to know, okay, what is our future going to look like?
Wow. And we tell young people all the time, especially on the freedom rides, they meet so many young activists from our recent history. And we tell them, you have the energy, you have the entitlement. Like, your job is to transform society today. Tell us what you need, what tools you have. My job is to be your cheerleader, to give you opportunities for exposure and, visceral back and forth, like the fan on the ceiling, go back and forth with you about what we need. Because these young people, Martin Luther King was assassinated. He wasn't yet 50. Let's be honest. Like, these people that we celebrate in Black history, they were young people. Malcolm X, Barbara John, he was 16 years old in Farmville, Virginia, the second stop on our Freedom Rides tour. And so we don't want our young people to be mistaken to believe you have to be a full-grown adult to change your community. Be a leader today and tomorrow, because we need you. You have to practice being who you want to be now. And so let us support you in that. Make your mistakes now so that you don't have to make them later. In addition to that, I think it's so important that we give our young people exposure. We have so many gatekeepers that keep them from taking the mantle of leadership, because when they were young, they didn't do the work. And so now they're not elders. They just messed around and got old. They haven't built institutions. And so they stand at the helm of institutions that they should really be trying to co-create and co-curate with younger demographics, younger people. And but at the same time, we in the European society, we throw our elders away. We've been taught to do that. Once you get old, you're not useful. Anything over 21 is on your way down. So prepare for the nursing home, because that's where you're going. But we value our elders. And so it doesn't mean that because you're preparing the young person for leadership, using their energy and their legs to be the legs of the movement, that you're not that wisdom bank that we draw from as an elder. And so that delicate balance has to be reestablished in our community. And that's why the Freedom Rides Tour is so important, because we want to facilitate those intergenerational dialogues.
Right. And then it also creates a space to have a conversation and for them to ask questions, and to be able to get, answers from people who have the experience, who have the knowledge. We don't want our children to base their wisdom and knowledge on things that they see on social media.
Yeah, like make new mistakes, right? You don't have to make you'll make mistakes, you'll make plenty, but hopefully you'll make some new ones so that we can keep failing forward, if that makes sense.
That makes sense. I love that. Failing forward. Did y'all get that? Failing forward. That's important. It is important. Like you said, it's important to make mistakes, but we want to be able to, have spaces where we can have those conversations. The conversations need to be had. They don't need to be something that's becomes public opinion, popular opinion, because it's shown on a platform where anybody can say anything and it be taken for the truth. And so, it's important that people tap into, like I said, the Art Institute, that they tap into the Freedom Rides, that they, go and into some of these establishments. And like I said, it's unfortunate. Like you said, you have some that are the gatekeepers, and it's like, okay, you loosen your grip on those keys a little bit and let us start tapping into some of those things. You know what I'm saying? Unlock a couple of those doors and let us see what's behind there. Because, it's something that's going to benefit us. It's not going to harm us. It's going to help us to get to that place of growth so that we can reach back to those who, need to be informed.
Absolutely. Absolutely. They say, what is it? They're weaker, but they're wiser. But I think, what that really translates to for us today is that we have access to so much information, but
Yeah.
it doesn't mean anything because we don't know what to find. Having access to Google and being able to Google anything and have information at the tip of your fingers, but not knowing what to Google, what to
Right.
search for.
Right. Right.
So that's why those conversations are necessary. They keep us focused.
Yeah, they do. They do. Well, I know we're getting close to wrapping things up here, but what I do want to do is two things. I always ask my guests, before we close our show, to talk about what they're doing to navigate in this now, to navigate in this space. What are some things that you're doing to live in the now?
Live in the now. Wow. That seems like such a relevant, easy question. But the truth is being grounded is so difficult when you're constantly planning for tomorrow. And so basic things like mothering myself, making sure that I eat, making sure that I drink water often, making sure that I go to sleep at a certain time and that I stop working at a certain time and that, I wake up and I do my prayers, and I have that talk with God, that tea time with God, that I grind my ginger and my lemongrass. I sell those products, but making sure that I actually drink and consume what I sell. And so basic mothering reminds me to live in the now, just being healthy and being intentional about self-care with the simple things.
Yes, yes, that's wonderful. I don't know if Haki is still there because I would love for him
Yes,
to
I'm
answer
here.
that question as well. What are some things that you are doing to live in the now?
Well, what I'm doing in the now, I'm planning for retirement. That's one thing. So everything evolves around getting free. For me, honestly, I'm practical in the context of thinking about quality of life fundamentally, and so just being around the right people, positive people, uplifting people, healthy people, people that are doers and visionaries. Uh, I find that if you're the smartest one in your group, you need a different group to be around. So that's and I'm feeling really good about this month and all of our evolutions. I mean, we recently just add on. We recently were featured in what's called the Baltimore Times newspaper, and on the cover of that was the new governor of Maryland. His name is Governor Westmore, the first Black governor of Maryland, and so we were in that edition of the paper. And so I just feel confident that from business, just practical things, just how you move and how you cross-reference your network to ensure that you are just hitting the different sectors and different community influencers so that we can ensure we're serving the young people properly, because that's what it's all about. So I make sure that I'm in the right places and we hold people accountable to do what we say we should be doing.
That's it, to do the work, to do the work. That is awesome. Okay, and now the next thing I always ask is, please tell people how they can get in contact with you. If they're interested in the Institute, if they're interested in Freedom Rides, how can they get in contact?
So always Facebook, www.facebook.com/teachingartist, one word. And please like us and share us. Even if you don't have money to give, that is such a big benefit. Somebody in your network may be interested in something that we're doing, not just with the Freedom Rides, maybe somewhere around the world. So please help us share and get the word out. Share this video. This is an incredible platform. This is the power of the Kims. We got Kim over here. So this is the Kim connection popping off. So please share her platform as well. Living in the now. I appreciate the opportunity again.
Yes. Like I said, this is something that's so important. And like I said, our history is not just to be contained in the month of February and they say, well, it's just it is a time when people highlight, but like I said, 365 days a year, every day, all day, every minute of every hour. You know, there's a person that is being born. Oh, there's a person that is being birthed into this world to be a legacy for all. So, it doesn't just stop here. There are so many opportunities for us to be creatives, for us to express our heritage, our culture, and things that are relevant in our lives. To know that we have purpose, we have relevancy in all things that we do, and the only way that we're going to be able to empower and to be able to uplift one another is to educate ourselves, so that we're moving again from that space of fear to a space of understanding and knowledge, that we can reach back and help those along who are struggling. It's a matter of figuring out what we can do for community. So are there any other parting words that you'd like to leave with our listeners as we reflect on the things that we talked about this evening?
Well, I'll just say, in case you missed it, culture is the new currency. Please remember that. Remember that culture is the new currency. It is the most valuable asset that we have, that we possess, that we trade and barter. Remember that 365, culture is the new currency. Kim Poole told you first.
That's right. Culture is the new currency. You heard it. Okay, you all see it on a t-shirt, right?
Yes, indeed.
We did.
We have
Yes, we did.
We
All
have
Hey, all right.
We
See,
did. Yeah,
right
we
there.
did.
Bam. Okay. There's power in there. Okay. Culture is the new currency. But I would like to thank you so much for being with me, Kim and Haki. Thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to be with us and to talk about this important topic as we move forward, and know that no one is ever a one-time guest on the How Now podcast, because what's happening now may not be what's happening 2 hours from now, 2 weeks from now, 2 months from now, 2 days from now. You're always welcome to come back. You're a part of the How Now family. And so I thank you again for taking time to be with us. And we wish you the best in all that you continue to do moving forward. Okay? Thanks so much. And that will do it for this edition of the How Now podcast, how to live in the now. And until I see you all the next time, I say peace.